This is Unseen Hours. I'm Jeuse Kastoan. What this episode will be talking about is alignment. You want to make sure everything is in alignment. Well, yeah, you want to make sure everything's in alignment mentally and emotionally before you take those steps. Now, when it comes to your plans and your structure, everything doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to have that outline. But in regards to mentally knowing, okay, I'm going to have to go through this and I'm going to have to, really buckle down because I've never done this before. And, I need to really go for it. You got to make sure you're in alignment. Before I actually started going hard, working, and going back to school and everything, I made sure that, mentally and emotionally I was well. I made sure my family was okay with everything happening. And I set out the goals that I wanted to achieve to be able to try to provide and help. You got to make sure that when you're doing these things that, everything doesn't have to be perfect, but, do your research and make sure you know where you're headed. You may have plans, be like, okay, I'm going to go to this school, I'm going to go to this school. Well, instead of being like, I'm going to go to this school, have 5 different schools that you could pick from that you don't mind going to. The best case scenario and the worst case scenario. All 5. Well, when it comes to jobs, be like, okay, well, I want to work in this industry. Okay, well, if you want to do that, then apply to, multiple companies in that industry and try to get jobs there. And don't forget where you're at now. Get a job to hold you, and then once you can find one in the industry that you want, make the jump. You got to make sure everything is in alignment so you can make the moves that you want to make. For me, I worked at Walgreens, and then I was still actually looking for jobs while I was working at Walgreens. But this was after like a year, because, it's hard to find a job. First off, when you're away from everything, and second, it's hard to find one if you just started working there. So, you want to get your feet wet and really dive into the job that you're at, and then once you're there, for a while, get that experience, and then start looking for jobs where you actually want to work. But you got to maintain the one that you're at. You got to make sure you still maintain excellence and that you're still working well at the job you're at. You don't want to be looking for jobs and then slacking at the job that's paying your bills. Because if you lose that job, then where are you at? Where are you going to go? So you want to stay consistent where you're working at. And then once you stay consistent where you're working at, you want to move forward and look for other opportunities while still maintaining that excellence where you're at. And then, for me, when it came to schools, I applied for best case scenario and worst case scenario. I applied to like 3 to 5 schools, if I remember correctly. And, I was accepted to 2 best case scenarios, and I was accepted to a worst case scenario. So in regards to the schools that I chose the one that was best for me and my family, and the one that made more sense. So in the end, I ended up making the right choice, but it was all because I put in the work to look for and research where I wanted to go, and then did my best on those applications to make sure I give my best the best opportunity to get accepted. And then in regards to like jobs, I took care of myself at Walgreens to make sure that I did everything I could to be efficient. And I was doing that while also applying for other jobs. But I made sure that my current job was taken care of and that the people that I work with, they were good. And then, once I got the opportunity and, my family was okay behind it, took the leap. So, in the end, you want to make sure that mentally and emotionally you are there and you are ready to do whatever needs to be done so you can achieve the goal that you set out. And then once you got all that in alignment, you got yourself set up, you're all prepped, and you're ready to jump into there and take that leap of faith, go for it. I'm Jeuse Kastoan. This is Hard Reset. Unseen Hours.